If you're ever out at a networking event, cocktail party, or somewhere in a situation where you have run out of things to say completely, I have the best little trick for you.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
What do you do? Oh, that question. It can be the most annoying question on the planet, in my opinion. And I think it stumps a lot of us. We worry and stress about how we answer that question. If you think about it, there are a million ways to answer it. There's the literal, what do you do? I work for XYZ company, or I am a whatever. And then there's, what do you really do? What is it that you are doing on this planet? And then the combination of everything between. In this episode, Emily Costopoulos and I discuss the what do you do and provide some guidance on how to get to a little bit more meaning and depth in answering that question, and also ways to check ourselves. Sometimes our ego is the one answering the question of what do you do? And in certain cases, we hold on to that answer that we feel good about because we're proud, or maybe it feels fancy. But the fancy answer is only serving our ego, and it's no longer what we want to be doing. So the what do you do is a loaded question. And I encourage you and invite you to start thinking about it differently. What if it has nothing to do with what you specifically went to college for, or what you literally do throughout your day? Because there's probably something much bigger, and there's something that's much more connected to your brand essence, to just your essence of who you are, that provides a much more interesting conversation after that question is asked. And it also can lead you into a much more rewarding place if you start to really live your answer. When people ask me, what do you do? I answer, I help people do difficult things, get down the black diamond mountains in life. And of course, I get a couple of different reactions when I give that answer. They're expecting for me to say, I am an author, I am a speaker, I am an entrepreneur, I am XYZ literal. And when you start bigger in a much more meaningful place, it leads you into a much more meaningful conversation, and you start to attract the right people. You start to attract the right future, the more aligned future. I encourage you to transcend the what and get to the why and the who. Get to your essence. That's one of the things we focus on in the Renegade Brand Bootcamp, by the way, is your brand essence and how you communicate and articulate what you do. If you are interested in more info on the program, head to renegadebrandbootcamp.com. You can find all the information, FAQs, what alumni are saying, what it's all about there. Sign up for the email if you want to know more and figure out if this is for you or not. And just know we're in early bird phase right now. So now would be the time. We do have limited seats available. So head to renegadebrandbootcamp.com. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show.
Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poopery, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poopery have literally taken the smell out of you-know-what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopery.com and Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code WHYNOTNOW. That's all one word. And you can hear the story about Poopery in our interview with founder Susie Batiste. That's Why Not Now episode 28. Poopery is also available at Target.
So should we go back in time a little bit? To when you lived on a boat?
Sorry, I was just taking a sip of a drink. Water. Yes, let's do it. So, oh my gosh.
What was going on when you were on a boat? You
Decided to live on a boat. I was
just
taking an
exited?
adult timeout.
Uh-huh.
I had just exited my company, and it's a little bit of an abnormal way to exit. So if anyone wants to hear that, it's episode 100, where I get pretty deep and raw and vulnerable. But we don't need to go there at the moment. It's too long of a story. But yeah, it was relearning how to sleep, relearning how to be kind of a normal human, because I had been running off of adrenaline for about 7-8 years.
Yeah.
This is the season of averaging 210 flights a year, 4 hours of sleep a night, and things were a little off kilter. I was over capacity, so
You hit the Staples button. The
stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're just
It was like time out.
Pause.
Something has to change.
Yeah.
There's got to be a better way. So during that time, I'd be hanging out with people, friends, like sometimes going to little functions, and when people would ask me what I do, and they'd say, "What do you do?" I almost feel anxious. My hands are clammy right now because I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I had all these fancy answers before starting my own company. I'd worked in professional sports, and it felt good to say, I work for the NBA's Phoenix Suns. And my ego liked to say that, and I felt proud. But I didn't love necessarily what I was doing. And then I became an author and an entrepreneur. And when I called time out on all of that, I didn't know if I could really, A, say those things, and B, that wasn't really what I was doing. That question is much bigger. I hope our society starts answering it in a, who are you? Why are you doing what you're doing? Not, what are you doing?
I just
goal.
got chills thinking about that because we've been talking a lot about how you want to be and not do. And that whole question is based off of the doing and the pushing and the productivity and the outcome.
And the title and the job and the company. And so, yeah, I mean, that's something we talk a lot about in boot camp. One of the first things I have all the female entrepreneurs is answer that question, and then we go through some curriculum and some learning and then answer it again. And it's funny how much it changes, and it gets so much more deep and interesting, because a better question is, what are you passionate about? Or what are you working on right now that you're passionate about? But oftentimes that's not how the question's asked. But I encourage everyone listening to start reframing. So back to your question, sorry, we digress. Living on the boat, my days consist of trying to figure out what I want to do next, and sleeping and learning to meditate and doing yoga for the first time. So I'm trying to dial it back, and I'd go to these things and I wouldn't know what to say. Sometimes I would say, well, I'm in transition. But then you sound like you don't know what the heck you're doing. So that doesn't feel great.
It doesn't feel good.
And it's so vanilla. And it's like, it's hard to have a conversation after that, because you're going to end up telling them what you used to do.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm an author, but am I still an author? I'm not writing a book right now. That was a few years ago. And I do still speak. That just, And so all my answers, what I was really doing was I was watching a lot of Ellen at 4 p.m. every day, doing spin class yoga and
trying to find myself per se. And so sometimes I would answer what I thought I might do next, which was kind of fun. And I thought about becoming an Uber driver, but having a podcast or having like something to amplify the experience where I'd maybe read people's tarot cards while at stoplights or, answer questions or record it or something. And then I didn't do that. I thought about going to politics, discuss that. But these were all ideas. So I realized how we answer this question is all about the what and how we need to get to that why and that who. So who are you? What? And my why is really helping people do difficult things, specifically female entrepreneurs. And so it's really evolved over the years. Now when someone says, what do you do? That's my answer. I help people do difficult things. And depending on the case, sometimes I'll say I help female entrepreneurs do difficult things. And I usually get this look back, and it's one of two things. It's actually one of three things. Answer number one is, ooh, tell me more. And they lean in and they really, what does that mean? I want to know. And that opens up a really fun conversation. It could be the second answer is, in reaction, is like confusion, like, oh, but curious. And this immediate, shit, well, what's my answer? What do I do? And the third is just, yep, not ready for the deep conversation. And that's fine because they filter themselves out. I don't want to have that conversation with you anyway if you aren't there. So yeah, it's a pretty big funnel though. It can go a lot of different places.
I think we should back up a little bit because in episode 100, you talk about like when you found out your main why.
I realized,
which is,
I kind of figured it out.
Yeah, super, super awesome. But even getting to that is really hard. But you got there. But then you found even more clarity.
Yeah.
And just adding in the female entrepreneurs really amplified what you do.
Yeah, and you actually helped me realize the other day, I thought during that transition time, and I want to talk about your transition too, so I'm bookmarking that in our minds. So we can kind of go all over the place. So we're going to keep on track. However, I always say, where purpose, passion, skill collide, bliss resides. And it can sound very fluffy and intangible, but it's super legit if you get your Venn diagram out and you connect those three things. And for the longest time, I had the skill, didn't have the passion or the purpose. The passion would come and go, but the purpose, huge deficit. So I thought I had to completely reinvent the wheel. I thought living on the boat, I was going to have to do a 180, like might become a plumber or something, like completely different. And I tried actually to almost leave that behind, what I used to do, because there was some negative connotation.
You want to
and
close the
little
book?
Stigma.
And pick up another book.
Yeah. And so what really happened is the only thing that shifted was injecting more purpose, and that was helping female entrepreneurs. So the skill is storytelling, communicating, helping people own their voice, share who they are. Some people call it a personal brand. Great. And I've done that with a lot of different people. The passion is watching them own their voice and come alive and really start to do what they were put on this earth to do and figure that out. And there's nothing better than helping people arrive there and witnessing it. And then the purpose I realized was not doing this for the movie stars anymore or the fancy CEOs and executives and big brands. It's the female entrepreneurs who are purpose-driven, who are doing good, doing well, and making a huge impact. And so, yeah, it gives me chills to like even think about, because there have been moments in the last year where I'm like, gosh, there is zero question that I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Kind of tearing up because I've never felt that way until now. I've felt fancy and like I was doing neat things and that I like to share or say because my ego thought it was fun. But, I'm in this moment of alignment that I've worked really hard to get to. And I'd say,
people who come through the Renegade Brand Bootcamp program, let's take Elaine, for example.
Yes.
One of our graduates who started a collagen product company. And her true why, when she came into the program and we first answer, what do you do? She said, I have a collagen product. I'm the founder of a collagen product. She evolved in what she really realized she did and why she started her company, which her story is exactly why, but she now answers that question differently. And she says, I help women feed their beauty from the inside out, which is so true. And because of her whole journey was she ended up having an autoimmune disease, and through health and wellness and things like collagen, she realized she could change her existence on this planet versus traditional Western medicine that was not working. And she was really struggling. Anyway.
Yeah. So I think that's so powerful. It's not like she came into the program and she was in this, transition period and she didn't really know what was next or what she wanted to do. It's not like she left and she's like, I'm doing something completely different. Mm-mm. It's like she gained the clarity that it's sometimes hard to gain when you're so in what you're doing, of recognizing that she had most of the equation there.
Oh, yeah.
She just needed to inject the reason she was doing it. And that's like exactly what you said, that going from the what to the why. Just
And the
switching
who. The who and the why transcending the what. Because that's her differentiating factor from a business perspective. That will give her the edge.
Yes.
When I know why this woman created this product and who she is, it makes me want to buy it more than someone else who created another collagen product, because there will be a gazillion on the market over the next several years because it's such a hot area. And it's a cred standpoint. She's lived this. So she didn't come up with this company to make money. Of course she will as a byproduct, but it was her solution for her own problem that she wants to share with the rest of the world. So it's like she's coming from a place of cred.
Yes.
And innocence and intention of purity that will also, as a matter of fact, make money.
Yeah.
Rad.
It's brilliant. It's amazing.
Okay. So what do you do? And what did you used to do? And let's talk about that. And just for the listeners, if you go back about a year, I forgot what we called it. Emily was on the podcast when she had a 9-to-5 job. So can you kind of catch us up on how what do you do has changed for you?
Yeah.
That was Raimi. We did rap earlier.
We did.
Refrain.
Coming soon. So we were talking about this before we hopped on. I feel very much in a transition period, and I still feel like a fish out of water when people ask me that question, and I just flop all over the place, depending on who is asking the question, depending on how I feel about that person. Do I feel like I need to impress them with my past career, or do I feel like I can be a little vulnerable with them? It changes all the time.
Interesting how you chameleon it and tell them what you think they want to hear.
Yeah.
Or what your ego wants to hear at the moment. Ooh.
Yeah, and I've been through the program twice, kind of. The first time myself, the second time as kind of an observer. So I recognize how important owning this is, but it's still so hard when you're put in front of a stranger that you don't know, and they come at you with this question that can be, it can jar you a little bit. And exactly what you said, that your hands get a little clammy and you're like, well.
And you're kind of trying to convince yourself what you do too, right?
Yeah.
Because the what is the daily. So you use,
I guess I feel like I have a lot of answers. Sometimes I say, well, I opened a co-working space in my small town. And that's a pretty basic vanilla answer.
And that's very what. But
Very
it's
what.
also very true and literal.
Yep. And then sometimes if I'm talking to someone who has kind of a status type job, my ego comes in and is like, well, I used to be an engineer in the oil field, and then I was an engineer in an underground laboratory.
Sounds fancy.
And then
It was, and it is.
Yeah.
But you're fancier without the lab coat.
Well, that takes time to figure out.
So much of the ego goes into this answer, doesn't it? I mean, if we look at your path, you spent a long time in school, in hard school. Like, I went to marketing at ASU, not that number one party school in America. You went to a school of mines, like numbers and engineering, and not that marketing isn't hard, but you invested a lot of time and energy to get that degree, and you decided that title at one point was feeding your ego more than your soul. Woo.
Yeah.
It's pretty meta. And so you did transition out of it. But I know so many people, I mean, just yesterday I was talking to an attorney who is not happy, and she has a very fancy, cool job for a professional sports team. And sometimes people even go into a lot of debt to get these titles and then decide, oh, this isn't what I want, maybe in 10 years later, or 5 or 25 years later.
Yeah.
So I just want to commend you how brave it was to shift your literal what do you do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how in the world, I mean, off topic, but how in the world at 18 are you supposed to decide when you go into college what you want to do? Ugh.
But then feeling stuck in the what do you do?
Yeah.
And so if we can get to that, what are you really doing?
Yeah.
Are you impacting lives in a way you don't realize? If you transcend the what,
Yeah.
you don't have to do a 180 necessarily. Like, you've re-engineered your life, and you still use those engineering skills all day, every day.
We kind of recently had that conversation of just exactly what you said, in your transition. Isn't that funny, like that we can go through something completely different, but at the heart of it, it's very similar, and it evokes very similar feelings and emotions and things and outcomes and whatever. But I definitely felt like if I leave engineering, I have to completely close a book on this, put it on the shelf, and pick up a whole different book and change everything. And over this past year, I've realized you don't have to change everything.
You're not starting from scratch again, right?
No.
You're not at the bottom.
No, and I don't have to say this education I invested in and these skill sets that I've honed aren't now useless because I don't have a traditional engineering job. And that is what kind of gets you back into what do you do, or who are you in this world. Even if that question is in this very one specific moment in time, weaving in your past into that can be really scary and hard. And so I love that. That is one of the first focuses of the program. And we're going to talk about, give some tips for people of how they can do that themselves here. But it is such a powerful thing to dive into. But it's not something we think about a lot, because our first answer goes to, I went to engineering school. I'm an engineer. Or I went to marketing school. I'm a marketer.
That's your identity.
Yeah. And it's not our identity. It doesn't need to be. And we have the power to change the answer.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. If you are digging this podcast, please do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment, and it means a ton to us. Also, after recording more than 100 episodes, I've created a bit of a cheat sheet on the top 5 things I've learned from renegades and how they get from idea to action, from dreaming to doing. I will email you the downloadable PDF when you subscribe to my newsletter. Just head to amyjomartin.com and click on Connect with Me.
There's a feeling that just connects, a literal feeling of alignment when you land on realizing what you do. It's not really finding. Sometimes there is a discovery process, but usually you have to create it, right? Because it's a little formula. You mix a little bit of this, and you did start a co-working space in the matter of 3 months. You came into the boot camp program and didn't know what you wanted to do next. And by the end, you had a physical space, a legit business. your engineering skills totally played into that, even though you were looking to connect and you were solving your own problem. You couldn't use forest Wi-Fi anymore. You needed to have better Wi-Fi, so you created this. But the connection in the community, it just so happened the underlying skills of engineering helped you do that in 3 months. It's crazy.
I think we should, there's one more example, I think.
Okay.
I think we should talk about Erin's.
Yeah.
Erin came in and her identity was in the fitness world. Mm-hmm. And she came in wanting to completely shed that and just start over.
And transcend. She felt like, I think she was in a bit of too much of a niche, or narrowed in, a little boxed in, right? As another fitness voice of authority,
Yeah. Oh, and gosh, like we all feel that all the time. Like, oh, I'm another person starting a podcast. I'm another person doing this. Like,
I'm just one in a million now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so she came in and wanted to kind of break up with that term, which I think she probably thought meant breaking up with that whole industry.
Letting go of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got all this equity, though, in it, right?
Very similar to, I don't have to break up with engineering to, in my next thing.
Right.
But through boot camp, she came to the realization that all she really needed to do was kind of switch out fitness with movement.
And she helps people heal through movement. Holy buckets. So
I
she
get
went
chills with
from,
that. That's
I'm a fitness,
amazing.
and it's 100% legit true, too. Because when she is doing these, programs for hundreds of people and she's up there with a microphone, she's not just talking about how to shift your body and like it's meditative almost. She gets in deep, kind of like the Soul Cycle, but for no bike. It's so cool what she does. It's so much deeper, and now she communicates from that spot.
Yeah.
Which attracts people that aren't just in the zone of looking for a fitness instructor. They're looking to change and heal.
And it's so important for our own mental, physical, almost like the health of us to be able to communicate with the world, in one succinct phrase or sentence. This is not just what I do, but this is
who I am. And it's a little more on the soul level and a little less of the physical literal. Not to get all woo-woo, but your ability to connect with someone is going to be far greater and amplified if you can go that high at the top of the funnel of potential connection.
And I love what you were saying before this. Like, if you start high, you have the ability to dive in.
And take it a lot of different, deeper directions that are still aligned. But if you start so narrow, you might be in a corner and then it's like you're at a cocktail party. You know that thing where you like walk up to someone in the awkward and then someone says, what do you do? Because it's the only thing you know how to say. In those situations, it's like your go-to. And if you get too zoned in too narrow and the other person has zero ability to relate, or maybe they don't have any social skills, it's an awkward silence, and then you got to find a way out of that conversation.
Yeah, and you could be missing an opportunity to connect with someone
Much higher and change their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at
Or impact their life. You don't have to just change it at a cocktail party, but
you never know.
make an impression.
You never know. I was at a party last night and I asked someone, what did they do? And they just said, lawyer.
One word.
Yep. And so, of course, I'm like, what kind? Do you like it? But what a way to just shut off a connection with another human real quick.
So you're going to a wedding tonight. You should try a couple things.
I should.
You should say, what are you working on that you're passionate about?
Yes. I'm going to use that tonight.
And then also try a few more on. Say, what do you like to do?
Yeah. I'm going to be sending Amy voice texts like in between cocktail hour of good questions I've gotten.
And if we get some good ones, we'll make sure to include them in here.
Yeah.
Or in the private Facebook group.
Ooh.
You head to the Why Not Now private Facebook group. That's where the gems will be, and maybe some selfies of Emily on the dance floor. Oh, by the way, I just have to add this in because it's popping in and I can't ignore it anymore. If you're ever out at a networking event, cocktail party, or somewhere in a situation where you have run out of things to say completely, I have the best little trick for you. You can get some trivia out that I learned. This is my go-to. is you ask the person, could be a complete stranger, do you know where the toast was invented? You know, like the Cheers clink toast. Do you know how it was invented? And they're probably going to say no. Nine times out of 10, they won't know. And so this will give you a few minutes to just think about something else to say or to exit. Because it was invented in the medieval times when two conflicting parties would come together to decide if they wanted to make peace and have a big discussion. And they had those big goblets, what are they called? Gimlets? You know, the big, hefty wine glass looking things.
Goblets, that sounds right.
Goblets, gimlets, whatever. And they would cheers. And the reason the cheers was invented is because, let's say you and I are enemies and we came to have a discussion, and I want to get some of my wine in your glass to prove to you I'm not trying to poison you, and you want to get some in my glass to prove again. So this was a safe way of saying, okay, we're both proving to each other that we're not trying to kill each other. So this little detour, maybe this is the most valuable thing you'll get out of this episode, but it is so helpful because it's awkward.
It is.
And then you just get, and you might say something you don't mean to say or share something you don't mean to share. So
Yeah, and it's so worth the awkward, because I know you were saying earlier, you're like, I just stopped going to these events because I didn't know what to say.
And sometimes they're just annoying. Like
Yeah, they are.
the word network gives me
know,
chills, but
I know.
or not in a good way. Go
But
ahead.
they have such potential to really connect with someone deeper
Yeah.
if you put in the awkward effort.
Yeah, or just bypass the whole what do you do and get somewhere else, or
Yeah. I love it.
And it could be in any situation. It could be at a grocery store or
Yeah.
sitting next to someone at a pool. So
Yeah. My 2 Uber drivers yesterday, I had the most amazing conversations with both of them. And I had every intention of getting in the well, it was a lift, getting in the lift and looking at my phone and not talking. And I didn't look at my phone the whole time with both of them, because we talked the whole time.
that's awesome.
And it was a conversation. I walked away as a more enlightened human.
That's so awesome. I hear you. I think you can have some amazing conversations with complete strangers if you're in the right zone, you're in a confined space, you're vulnerable, you probably will never see them again.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to go tell your, community what you just said. So, yeah, it's
Yes,
interesting.
you can practice on these people with your new and improved what do you do. So let's give people some tips on
I
how
know.
to do
I was
this.
just thinking, like, gosh, we're just teasing the heck out of it. So one of the things I start with in terms of helping guide people is starting with their why. Do you have any idea? Have you given this some thought? And this is a hard question, by the way. Like, this is life work. The what do you do is constantly going to evolve. And so how many women I've seen that just want to have it bottled up in a perfect sentence and then done, check it off the box, and never have to visit again is, you have to try these on in practice. It's kind of fun, and it will change. So don't get too attached to one thing, because it probably will shift over time, but you'll know it when you nail it. So what is it that you do that lights you up? Like what gives you joy in your job or in your day of helping people? And if we go even further back, and even harder work is your why. I mean, according to Simon Sinek, who helped guide me to find mine, a lot of times it stemmed from one of your earliest childhood memories. So starting back and thinking, what are some of my earliest memories, and starting to dissect them a little bit, and then thinking, do they have transcendent threads into my personality now and into my life? Do they keep popping up? Go higher. The impact you're making on people is usually the root of what you're doing. So I gave a talk to a bunch of mortgage sales individuals at this conference, right? It was like an incentive trip where the top salespeople got to go. And I was sharing with them what they do is help people navigate through one of the biggest decisions in their life they will ever have, and give them comfort and security. And then a different situation where I was speaking to this group of travel incentive executives, where they're the ones planning the trips for the other people I was just talking about. They give once-in-a-lifetime experiences. They create them, right? They do. They get to design them. A trip that someone would never have gone on without this opportunity from their,
Yes.
job. So it's just go higher, go deeper, go bigger, and just stretch yourself. Like with Elaine, I know when she landed on, I help women feed their beauty from within, everyone was like, boom, mic drop, you got it. And she knew it. It gives me chills again. If it gives you goosebumps, you're probably...
Yes.
close.
I love that example of the mortgage lenders because it puts the person at the forefront of it instead of the career that they're in. When we have a choice to go to someone because we know them, because we like them, because we feel comfortable around them, that's what we'll choose to do.
Yep.
So how many people, choose their real estate agent, their mortgage lender because they connect with that person individually. So putting, that at the forefront of the what do you do question is so powerful.
And think about, you're in that seat. You are in that seat of guiding. Usually in your career, if you think about whatever you're doing, you're helping someone in some way, even if it's a long tail or a indirect situation. So I think about my mom. For years, she was a dental assistant, but I swear her why, or something rooted in her why and what she does, is she has so much compassion and emotional intelligence that she was actually guiding people and helping them find safety and security in a very fearful situation,
Yes.
scary situation. Some people are deathly afraid to go to the dentist. So you meet my mom and it's like going to Disneyland or something when you meet her. But then she helps. So she wasn't a dental assistant. She
That was her
guided people
median.
through a really, that was the vehicle.
That
Or medium.
was her medium.
She might be a medium as well, but yeah, so it's like, and then a little bit of imposter syndrome usually comes in here, and people are like, is that really what I do? Can I own that? And you have to take a deep look in the mirror, good look in the mirror, whatever the saying is, and ask yourself, am I doing that? Can you feel comfortable owning that? And hopefully you can. And if you can't, maybe it's time to pivot. If you're not feeling that deep connection with the help you're providing or guiding, if it feels like a bullshit answer, go find something else to do that lights you up.
Yeah.
If you're mailing it in.
Yeah. I want to emphasize that because we talked about that before, that you are an author and a podcaster and you curate, boot camps, but those are vehicles for your true why.
Yep.
And that can apply to everyone.
And don't try to force a what do you do why level and who level into something that isn't fitting. Just change your literal. Yeah, it's probably a really good indicator, like, I'm not living my why. I'm not in the zone, right? So what a good filter question. Like, don't try to reverse engineer and kind of bullshit yourself. I just had a really good thought. So I have two people, like if you're really trying to think literally, what are some examples of this? Let's look at Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos. You can ask him, I have before, do you like shoes? The guy doesn't care about shoes. He started an online shoe company, but he doesn't like clothing or anything. He wears the same thing every day just to make it easy. But he delivers happiness. His customer service and company culture scenario that he's created is what he does. And that's where sometimes it's in disguise. Like the product itself doesn't have to be some huge purposeful give back or something. It might be that his way of impacting lives at large scale is through his team members, the culture, through the company culture, and his customers. So he's delivering happiness in a way that it's so unexpected. Same with Susie Batiste with Poopery. It just so happens that Poopery, like bathroom odor spray, is the vehicle for her to be able to share her why, and transform shit. And it's so, I think sometimes we get hung up of trying to get too literal.
Yes.
You spend your life doing what you do. You might as well go at that higher level and live on that next dimension versus mail it in and, check boxes.
Yeah, and it's never too late
No.
to figure it out.
I know. I
Never.
mean, my mom, late 50s, became an entrepreneur, my mom and dad, and how inspiring. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?